Well, I'm joined in the studio by Mohamad Elmasry. He's a professor at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Good to have you with us. So first of all, we've heard from the Deputy Governor of Jenin, if we start with what's happening in the West Bank, talking about the Israeli raid. They're about to step up even further after 4 entrances to the city were sealed. What is the goal here, according to what you can see?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we have to just kind of zoom out a little bit and recognize that Israel is basically an expansionist state. This idea of greater Israel is very, very deeply rooted. The belief among many Israelis, including the political elite, is that all of this land is supposed to be for them. So there's been an ongoing attempt, really decades-long attempt, to try to expand slowly into the West Bank. There are more than 200 illegal settlements and outposts. There are also more than 750,000 illegal Israeli settlers. And so these kinds of incursions are not uncommon. Certainly this is an escalation, but Israel has its sights on larger and larger sections of the West Bank, and there have been rumblings that they may seek to formally annex at least Area C in the West Bank this year.
Area C, of course, is the area, one of the areas under the Oslo Accords that the Palestinian Authority was supposed to have some say over, right? So,
right, but Area C is an area that Israel has a lot of control, security, and administrative control over, and most of the settlements are in the area.
How far Israel can go in annexing the West Bank, that also depends on the U.S. position, right? And let's listen in to what officials of the incoming Trump administration have been saying about their policy towards the West Bank.
Do you agree with the statement that in order to achieve long-term peace and stability in the Middle East, that we have to secure the human rights and rights of self-determination for both Israelis and Palestinians? That's a yes or no?
I support human rights for all, and I think it's a disgrace that Hamas and Hezbollah have stripped human rights of the Palestinian people, and we need to ensure that we are standing up for human rights, and Israel is standing up for human rights. It is a beacon of human rights in the region.
We agree with that. I asked you in my office also about whether Palestinians have the right of self-determination. My understanding was you said yes. Do you have a different answer today?
That was not the direct question that we discussed. I said the Palestinian people...
Do you believe that Palestinians have the right of self-determination?
I believe the Palestinian people deserve so much better than the failures that they've had from terrorist leadership.
It's just a pretty simple question.
And I believe we need peace in the region. Of course they deserve human rights.
So...
I want to ensure that, number one, we bring the hostages home.
So do all of us. Representative Stefanik, let me just ask you. I have 30 seconds left. I'm rarely surprised by answers in my office, but I did ask you whether you subscribe to the views of Finance Minister Smotrich.
Of who? I'm sorry,
Smotrich. This is the Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich and the former National Security Minister Ben-Gvir, who believe that Israel has a biblical right to the entire West Bank. And in that conversation, you told me that, yes, you shared that view. Is that your view today?
Yes.
So listening to those sorts of exchanges, and it's not limited to this official. We've heard similar things from Mike Huckabee and others. You've got to ask yourself, what is the new U.S. policy towards the West Bank going to be when you have officials talking about they think Israel has a, quote, biblical right to the area, and they struggle to even answer what to many people would be a basic, logical, straightforward question about whether Palestinian people have a right to self-determination.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly very ominous, but now I think it's easier to understand why Israel was hoping that Donald Trump would win the election. Back in August, and I mentioned this in an earlier interview, Trump said that Israel's borders were too small, and he wished that there was a way to expand the borders. And this was interpreted by the right wing, including Bezalel Smotrich, who was just referenced in that clip, as a kind of green light for this planned annexation of the West Bank, at least parts of the
They're
West
not
Bank.
talking just about Area C, though, are they? They're talking about A, B, and C, the whole West Bank.
Well, I think they understand that this has to be gradual, but the goal is to ultimately take over the West Bank and also Gaza. And I think, it's clear that Israel would like to depopulate both of those, areas and then resettle them completely with Israelis, with Jews.
Well, in the case of Gaza, we have a ceasefire deal just about holding. How difficult will the next stage of this ceasefire deal, I think tomorrow, the exchange of more captives by both sides? We saw it struggle, the first exchange struggle. How hard is this one going to be?
It's very complicated. I think it's going to be complicated at every stage. First of all, both sides kind of have their preferences about who's going to be released, right? The Israelis have preferences on which captives are going to be released first, and then Hamas has preferences on which Palestinians are going to be released from those Israeli jails. But also, we haven't always had clarity, and I don't think Hamas has always had clarity on which Israeli captives are still alive and which Israeli captives were killed in the bombing, in Israel's bombing campaign. Now, my understanding, based on the Israeli media reports that I've seen, is that things seem to be squared away for this weekend, for tomorrow. And Hamas is, I believe, prepared to submit a list later today with the 4 Israeli captives that are going to be released tomorrow.
All right, Mohamad Elmasry, thank you so much for coming in.